Adedayo Williams froze mid-step, his polished Italian leather shoes rooted to the cracked pavement of the charity outreach venue. His security detail moved around him like a protective wall, but Dayo barely noticed them. His eyes, sharp, calculating eyes that had closed billionaire deals without flinching, were locked on something impossible. A silver necklace. Delicate. Intricate. With a small sapphire pendant shaped like a teardrop, surrounded by tiny diamonds that caught the Lagos afternoon sun. It hung around the neck of a girl who looked like she hadn't seen a proper meal in weeks. "Sir?" Toby Ajayi, his assistant, touched his elbow gently. "The media is waiting. We need to." "That necklace," Dayo whispered, his voice tight. "Where did she get that necklace?" The girl, thin, dark-skinned, with hollowed cheeks and worn clothing, was collecting food items from the charity table, her movements quick and careful like someone used to surviving on scraps. She kept her head down, avoiding the cameras that followed Dayo everywhere. But that necklace. Dayo's heart pounded. It was identical. No, not identical. It was the same necklace. His late mother's necklace. The one that had disappeared from their family home 7 years ago, the year she died. The necklace she had loved more than any of her expensive jewelry, the one she had clutched in her final days, whispering words he could never quite hear. "Find out who she is," Dayo commanded, already moving toward her. "Wait. Before we continue this shocking story, welcome to TJ Stories, where we bring you the most dramatic, emotional, and unbelievable real-life stories from across Africa and beyond. If you love stories about karma, betrayal, hidden secrets, and justice being served, then you're in the right place. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit that notification bell so you never miss our daily uploads. Drop a comment below and tell us what you think is going to happen next. Now, let's get back to Dayo and this mysterious homeless girl. The girl sensed his approach before she saw him. Her body went rigid, her hand instinctively reaching for the necklace as if to protect it. When she finally looked up and saw Dayo, dressed in his tailored navy suit, flanked by bodyguards, looking every inch the billionaire CEO he was, her eyes widened with pure terror. "Please," Dayo said softly, raising his hands in what he hoped was a non-threatening gesture. "I just want to ask you about your necklace. Where did you?" She bolted. One moment she was standing there, clutching a plastic bag of rice and beans. The next, she had dropped everything and was running through the crowd like a frightened deer. "Stop her," one of the bodyguards shouted, moving to give chase. "No," Dayo commanded sharply. "Let her go." But his mind was racing. That necklace. That specific necklace. There was no way this homeless girl should have it. No possible way. Unless his mother had given it to her? But why? His mother had been a private woman, yes, but she would have told him. She would have explained. Wouldn't she? Toby appeared at his side, slightly out of breath. "Sir, what just happened? Do you know that girl?" "No," Dayo said slowly, still staring in the direction she had run. "But I need to find out everything about her." Everything. 6 hours earlier. Adedayo Williams had started his morning the way he started every morning for the past 7 years, staring at his mother's portrait. The painting hung in his private study, a room even his sister Adedayo rarely entered. In it, his mother, Mornike Williams, sat regally in traditional Asawok, her warm smile captured perfectly by the artist. Around her neck in the portrait was that same necklace. "I miss you, Mama," Dayo whispered to the painting, like he always did. Every single day. His mother had been his compass, his moral center in a world that often rewarded ruthlessness over kindness. When she died from complications of diabetes 7 years ago, Dayo had been only 25, freshly graduated from LSE and suddenly thrust into running Williams Group, a conglomerate worth over 50 billion naira spanning real estate, telecommunications, and oil. He had survived. More than survived, he had thrived, doubling the company's worth in 7 years. But he had never stopped missing her wisdom, her gentle corrections, her knowing looks that said more than words ever could. The necklace had disappeared the week after her funeral. He had searched everywhere, questioned everyone, but it had simply vanished. He had assumed one of the house staff had stolen it during the chaos of mourning. The police investigation had gone nowhere. And now, 7 years later, he had seen it around the neck of a homeless girl at a charity event. It didn't make sense. Nothing about it made sense. Dayo, Toby had knocked on his study door that morning, interrupting his thoughts. The shareholders' meeting is in 1 hour. And don't forget, you have the charity outreach event this afternoon. The one for the homeless and vulnerable. Dayo had sighed. He did these charity events because his mother had loved them, had insisted that wealth meant nothing without compassion. But he always felt like a fraud at them, a billionaire playing at philanthropy while people struggled with real problems. He had no idea that today's event would turn his entire world upside down. Present time. Sir, the media is asking questions, Toby said urgently, pulling Dayo back to the present. They saw you chase after that girl. They want to know. Tell them nothing, Dayo said curtly. We're leaving. Now. In his Mercedes S-Class, speeding away from the charity venue, Dayo couldn't stop his mind from spinning. He pulled out his phone and called his head of security. Johnson, I need you to find someone. A homeless girl, early 20s, slim build, dark skin. She was at the charity event today wearing a silver necklace with a sapphire pendant. I need to know everything about her. Where she sleeps, where she goes, who she talks to. But Johnson, be discreet. Don't frighten her. Don't approach her. Just, watch. Yes, sir, Johnson replied without question. Dayo ended the call and stared out the tinted window at Lagos traffic, the Danfos, the Okadas, the street hawkers selling everything from phone chargers to roasted plantain. Somewhere out there, that girl was hiding. And she had answers he desperately needed. Because if his mother had given that necklace to her, or to her mother, it meant his mama had secrets. Secrets that someone in his own family might have known about. Secrets that might explain why the necklace had disappeared in the first place. His phone buzzed. A text from his sister, Adizwa, heard you caused a scene at the charity event. What's going on? Dayo stared at the message for a long moment before deleting it without responding. He trusted Sua. She was his only living family. But something in his gut, that same instinct that had made him a successful businessman, told him to keep this discovery to himself. At least for now. At least until he understood what was really going on. The girl's terrified face flashed through his mind again. She had looked at him like he was going to hurt her, take something precious from her. But Dayo didn't want to take anything. He just wanted the truth. Whatever it cost him. What do you think? How did this homeless girl get Dayo's mother's necklace? Was it stolen? Was it a gift? Drop your theories in the comments below. And don't forget, like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Temilade ran until her lungs burned and her legs trembled. She didn't stop until she was 3 streets away from the charity venue, deep in the maze of narrow alleys behind Ojulegba Market where no fancy car could follow. Only then did she collapse against a concrete wall, gasping for air, her hands still clutched protectively around the necklace. Stupid, 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 she muttered to herself in Yoruba. Why did you wear it out? Why? But she knew why. The necklace was the only thing she had left of her mother. The only proof that she had once been loved, once belonged to someone. On days when the hunger was too sharp or the loneliness too heavy, touching the cool silver gave her strength. Now that strength had almost cost her everything. That man, the rich one with the sharp eyes and expensive suit, he had recognized the necklace. She had seen it in his face, the shock, the confusion, and then something else. Something that looked almost like grief. Who was he? And why did he care about her necklace? Temi pushed off the wall and started walking again, this time slower, more carefully. She needed to get back to Mama Risi before dark. The streets weren't safe for girls like her after sunset. Adedayo Williams didn't go home that night. Instead, He went to his office, the top floor of Williams Tower in Victoria Island, where floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the Lagos Lagoon. Toby had tried to follow him up, concern written all over his face, but Dayo had dismissed him. "Go home, Toby. I'm fine." "You're clearly not fine, sir. You've been acting strange since." "I said go home." Toby had left, but not before giving Dayo that worried look that said he knew his boss was hiding something. Now, alone in his office at 11 p.m., Dayo sat in the dark with only the city lights illuminating his face. His phone kept buzzing, messages from business partners, from Sua, from friends inviting him to one club opening or another. He ignored them all. Instead, he opened the safe behind his desk and pulled out a small wooden box. Inside was the only photograph he had of his mother wearing the necklace. It had been taken at a church service, maybe 10 years ago. She was laughing at something his father had said, her hand touching the sapphire pendant unconsciously. Dayo studied the necklace in the photo, comparing it to the memory of what he'd seen today. Every detail matched. The delicate silver chain. The teardrop sapphire. The small diamond surrounding it. There was no doubt. It was the same necklace. His phone rang. Johnson, his head of security. "Talk to me," Dayo answered immediately. "We found her, sir. She's staying in an abandoned building near Yaba. Sleeps there with about a dozen other homeless people. Our surveillance shows she's been there for at least 6 months, maybe longer." "Name?" "That's the interesting part, sir. She doesn't seem to exist. No bank accounts, no school records we can find, no registered address. It's like she's a ghost." Dayo frowned. "Everyone exists somewhere, Johnson. Birth certificate? Hospital records?" "Still searching, sir. But there's something else. There's an older woman who seems to look after her. The other homeless people call her Mama Risi. They seem protective of the girl. Very protective. I don't want her frightened, Johnson. Just watched." "Understood?" "Yes, sir." After hanging up, Dayo leaned back in his leather chair and closed his eyes. A girl with no official existence, wearing his dead mother's most precious possession. Every logical explanation felt wrong. Could she have stolen it? Impossible. The necklace had disappeared from a locked house with 24-hour security. Could someone have given it to her? But who? And why? His mother's face swam in his memory, those last few weeks before she died. She had been insistent about something, kept trying to tell him and Sua about, what? He couldn't remember. The grief had been too fresh, the shock of losing her too raw. He had barely listened. Had she been trying to tell them about this girl? Temi made it back to the abandoned building just as the sun was setting, painting the Lagos sky in shades of orange and purple. The building, what used to be a printing press before the owner went bankrupt, had become home to about 15 people who had nowhere else to go. Mama Risi was waiting for her at the entrance, arms crossed, face stern. "Where have you been?" the older woman demanded in Yoruba. "I was worried sick." "I'm sorry, Mama," Temi said quietly, moving past her into the building. "I went to the charity thing at Ojulegba. I got some rice and..." "Where is it?" Temi's face fell. I had to run. I dropped it." "Temi." Mama Risi's voice was sharp with frustration. "That was food for 3 days. What happened? What made you run?" Temi's hand went to her necklace again, that unconscious protective gesture. Mama Risi noticed immediately, and her expression changed from anger to concern. "Someone tried to take it?" she asked, her voice softer now. "No. Not exactly." Temi sat down on the thin mat that served as her bed. "There was a man there. A rich man. He saw the necklace and he..." "Mama," he looked at it like he recognized it. Like he knew it. Mama Risi went very still. "Did he try to take it from you?" "No. He just asked where I got it. But I got scared and I ran. The older woman sat down beside Temi, her worn face troubled. Your mother gave you that necklace, God rest her soul. It belongs to you. Don't ever let anyone make you feel ashamed of it. But what if he comes back? What if he? Then we deal with it, Mama Risi said firmly. But Temi, listen to me. That necklace, your mother made me promise to tell you something when you were old enough. She said it was important. Temi turned to look at her, heart racing. Tell me what? Mama Risi hesitated, seeming to wage an internal battle. Finally, she sighed. Your mother said that necklace was given to her by someone important. Someone who wanted to help her, help you. She never told me the whole story, but she said if anything ever happened to her, you should keep it safe. That it was proof of a promise. Proof of what promise? I don't know, child. She died before she could explain everything. But she was very clear, that necklace is yours by right, not by theft. Remember that. Temi touched the pendant, feeling its familiar weight. Her mother's face was fading from memory now. It had been 8 years since she died from malaria, leaving 12-year-old Temi alone in a world that had no space for orphaned girls with no family and no money. I miss her, Temi whispered. I know, baby. I know. The next morning, Dayo did something he hadn't done in 7 years. He drove himself, alone, without security or assistance, back to Ojulegba. He parked his Mercedes 3 streets away, even he knew better than to leave a luxury car in plain sight, and walked the rest of the way on foot. He wore jeans and a simple t-shirt, though even in casual clothes, everything about him screamed wealth. The way he walked, the confidence in his posture, the expensive watch he'd forgotten to remove. The charity venue was being cleaned up by workers, but the homeless people who had been there yesterday were gone. Dayo stood there for a moment, feeling foolish. What had he expected? That she would just appear? You looking for someone? Dayo turned to see an old man sitting on a nearby bench, watching him with shrewd eyes. Maybe, Dayo said carefully. A young woman. Early 20s. She was here yesterday wearing a silver necklace. The old man's expression closed off immediately. Don't know her. I'm not trying to cause trouble. I just want to talk to her about. I said I don't know her. The old man stood up and started to walk away. Wait. Dayo pulled out his wallet and extracted several crisp 1,000 naira notes. Please. Just tell me where I can find her. Or give her a message for me. The old man looked at the money, then at Dayo's face. Why you want to find her so bad? She steals something from you? No, Dayo said honestly. The opposite. I think someone stole something from her. Something that belonged to her mother. And I want to make it right. The old man studied him for a long moment, then shook his head. Rich people and their games. Keep your money, Oga. If I see the girl, I'll tell her someone is looking for her. But I can't promise she'll want to be found. He walked away, leaving Dayo standing alone in the morning sun. That afternoon, Dayo made a decision that would change everything. He called his family lawyer, Barrister Femi Akinlolu, into his office. Barrister, I need to ask you something about my mother's estate. Femi, a smooth-talking man in his 50s who had served the Williams family for 20 years, smiled. Of course, Dayo. What do you need? Did my mother ever mention a necklace? A silver necklace with a sapphire pendant? It disappeared after she died. The change in Femi's expression was subtle, but Dayo caught it, a brief flicker of something that might have been surprise, or might have been guilt. A necklace? Femi said slowly. I'm afraid I don't recall. Think carefully, Barrister. It was very important to her. Many things were important to your mother, Dayo. But I honestly don't remember any specific necklace. Why do you ask? Dayo watched the lawyer's face carefully. No reason. Just curious. But he didn't believe him. And for the first time in 7 years, Dayo began to wonder what other secrets had been buried with his mother. Temilade was buying akra from her usual spot near the bus stop when she felt it, that prickling sensation on the back of her neck that said someone was watching her. She turned quickly, scanning the crowded street. Commuters rushing to catch danfos, traders setting up their stalls, children in worn uniforms heading to school. Nothing unusual. But the feeling persisted. "Temi, you want 3 or 4, the akra seller asked impatiently. 3, auntie." She paid with coins scrounged from helping a woman carry her bags yesterday, then moved away from the stall. The feeling followed her. She walked faster, weaving through the morning crowd, her heart beginning to race. Was it the rich man from the charity event? Had he found her? She ducked into a narrow alley, pressed herself against a wall, and waited. After 5 minutes of silence, she felt foolish. Maybe it was just paranoia. Maybe. "You're good at running." Temi spun around to find Mama Risi standing at the alley entrance, shaking her head. "Mama. You scared me." That was the point. "Child, you've been jumpy for 2 days now." "This is about that man, isn't it?" Temi nodded miserably. "I keep feeling like someone is following me. Watching me." Mama Risi's face grew serious. "Maybe they are. Rich men don't give up easily when they want something. Come, let's go back. It's safer in numbers." But as they walked back toward the abandoned building, neither of them noticed the black SUV parked half a block away, or the man inside it making a phone call. Adedayo Williams sat across from his sister in her Ikoyi apartment, watching her face carefully as he spoke. "Sua, I need you to tell me everything you remember about Mama's last few months." Everything she said, everyone she met with. Adizwa looked up from her breakfast, Greek yogurt and berries, because Sua was always on some new diet. Why this sudden interest in the past? "Dayo, that was 7 years ago. Just answer the question." Something in his tone made her pause. She set down her spoon and studied her younger brother. "What's going on? You've been acting strange since that charity event. Toby is worried about you." "Sua." She sighed. "Fine. Mama's last months. She was sick, you remember that. The diabetes was getting worse. She spent a lot of time in her room, made us promise to take care of each other. That's it. Did she ever mention wanting to help someone? Maybe someone outside the family?" "Mama wanted to help everyone. You know how she was." Sua picked up her coffee cup. "Why? Did someone come forward claiming she promised them something? Because if they did, they're lying. Barrister Femi handled everything properly." Dayo leaned forward. "Did she ever mention a necklace? Silver, with a sapphire pendant?" The coffee cup froze halfway to Sua's lips. It was just for a second, a brief moment of stillness, but Dayo saw it. "A necklace?" Sua's voice was carefully neutral. "What necklace?" "The one she always wore. The one that disappeared after she died." "Dayo, I honestly don't remember every piece of jewelry Mama owned. If something went missing, it was probably stolen by one of the house staff. These things happen." She stood up abruptly. "Now, I have a meeting in an hour. Was there anything else?" Dayo stood too, studying his sister's face. They looked alike, same sharp cheekbones, same dark eyes, same stubborn chin. But right now, he felt like he was looking at a stranger. "No," he said slowly. "Nothing else." But as he drove away from her apartment, his phone was already ringing. He answered without looking at the caller ID. "Johnson. Tell me you have something." "Sir, the girl's name is Temilade. No last name that we can find. But we tracked down the woman who looks after her, Mama Risi. Real name, Maricela Adebayo. She used to work as a cleaner at various hospitals. Lost her job about 5 years ago, ended up on the streets. Can she tell us anything about the girl?" "We haven't approached her yet, sir." You said to just observe. Good. Keep it that way for now. Dayo paused at a red light. But find out everything you can about Temilade's mother. Who she was, where she lived, how she died. There has to be a paper trail somewhere. Already on it, sir. That evening, Temi was helping Mama Risi sort through donated clothes when one of the younger boys came running in, breathless. Mama Risi. Mama Risi. There's a fine car outside. A big one. The adults in the building went quiet. Fine cars didn't come to places like this unless it was trouble, police, demolition notices, or someone looking to cause problems. Mama Risi stood up slowly. Stay here, she told Temi. No, I'm coming with you. They walked outside together, and Temi's stomach dropped. The Mercedes S-Class was unmistakable, gleaming in the fading sunlight like it had been transported from another world. And leaning against it, looking completely out of place in his casual but expensive clothes, was the rich man from the charity event. He straightened when he saw them, and Temi noticed he was holding something, a large plastic bag. Good evening, he said politely, nodding respectfully to Mama Risi. Please, I don't mean any harm. I just want to talk. We have nothing to say to you, Mama Risi said firmly. Leave us alone. I know. He lifted the bag. I brought food. Rice, beans, chicken, bread. Enough for everyone here. No strings attached. I need 5 minutes. Please. Temi watched him carefully. He didn't look threatening. If anything, he looked tired, like he hadn't slept in days. And his eyes, when they landed on her necklace, held something that looked like pain. Mama, she whispered. Maybe we should listen. Temi. 5 minutes. If he tries anything, everyone here will see. Mama Risi hesitated, then nodded reluctantly. 5 minutes. And we keep the food even if we don't like what you have to say. A small smile crossed his face. Deal. He handed the food to Mama Risi, who passed it to one of the other residents to distribute. Then he turned to Temi, and his expression became serious. My name is Adedayo Williams. Everyone calls me Dayo. That necklace you're wearing, my mother had one exactly like it. She died 7 years ago, and it disappeared after her death. I've been looking for it ever since. Temi's hand went protectively to the pendant. My mother gave this to me before she died. It's mine. I believe you, he said quickly. I'm not trying to take it from you. I just need to know, how did your mother get it? Where did she know my mother from? I don't know. I was 12 when she died. She never told me. What was your mother's name? Temi hesitated. Mama Risi put a warning hand on her shoulder, but Temi shook her head. Something in this man's face made her want to trust him. Folktale. Folktale. I don't remember her last name. Everyone just called her Shola. Dayo pulled out his phone, typed something quickly, then showed her a photograph. Is this her? Temi's breath caught. It was an old photo, maybe 15 years old, showing a younger version of her mother standing next to an elegant woman in traditional dress. Where did you get this? Temi whispered. From my mother's private photos. I just found it an hour ago. Dayo's voice was thick with emotion. The woman next to your mother, that's my mother. Mornike Williams. Temi stared at the photo, her mind reeling. Her mother had never mentioned knowing anyone rich or important. They had lived in a small room in Ajagunal, barely scraping by. How could she have known this man's mother? I don't understand, she said. Neither do I. Dayo looked between Temi and Mama Risi. But I need to find out. And I think someone in my own family has been hiding the truth from me. Someone who doesn't want me to find you. Why would anyone care about a homeless girl? Temi asked bitterly. Dayo's eyes were intense. Because I think my mother left you something. Something more than just a necklace. And I think my sister and my family lawyer have been hiding it for 7 years. Mama Risi stepped forward. If that's true, why would you help her? You're one of them, the rich ones. Why should we trust you? Because my mother taught me that wealth without integrity is worthless. Because I spent 7 years thinking that necklace was stolen, hating whoever took it, when the truth is. He looked at Temi, and his voice softened. The truth is, my mother gave it to someone she cared about. And if I don't honor that, then I don't deserve to call myself her son. Silence fell over them. In the distance, Lagos traffic rumbled and honked. Someone inside the building was sharing out the food Dayo had brought, and the smell of jollof rice drifted out. Temi made a decision. Okay, she said. I'll help you find the truth. But I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it for my mother. She deserves to be remembered as more than just a poor woman who died and left her daughter nothing. Dayo nodded. That's fair. He pulled out a business card and handed it to her. This has my private number. If anything happens, if anyone threatens you or tries to take that necklace, you call me immediately. Do you understand? I'm not a child, Temi said, but she took the card. I know. But you're in danger now. The moment I started asking questions, I put you in danger. And I won't forgive myself if something happens to you. He got back in his car, but before driving away, he rolled down the window. Temilade, can I call you Temi? She nodded. Temi, I'm going to find out what my mother wanted for you. I promise you that. On her memory, I promise. Then he was gone, leaving Temi standing in the dusty street, clutching a business card and feeling like her entire world had just shifted on its axis. Mama Risi put an arm around her shoulders. That man is either going to save your life or ruin it. I hope we haven't just made a terrible mistake. Temi touched her necklace, feeling its familiar weight. Me too, Mama. Me too. Barrister Femi Akinlolo was having lunch at his favorite restaurant in Victoria Island when his phone rang. Seeing Adedayo Williams's name on the screen made him pause mid-bite. Sua, what a pleasant. We have a problem, she cut him off, her voice tight. Dayo is asking questions. About the necklace. Femi's fork clattered against his plate. Around him, other diners continued their conversations, oblivious. What kind of questions? He wanted to know everything about Mama's last months. Everyone she met with. And then he asked specifically about a silver necklace with a sapphire pendant. Did he say why? No. But Femi, he knows something. I could see it in his face. He was testing me, watching my reactions. There was a pause. What if he found her? What if he found the girl? Femi stood up, throwing cash on the table and walking quickly toward the exit. Where are you now? At home. Femi, what do we do? If he finds out what we did? Calm down. We did nothing wrong. Your mother's will was executed properly. There was no mention of any outside arrangements. If Dayo is chasing shadows, let him. You don't understand. This is Dayo we're talking about. When he wants answers, he doesn't stop until he gets them. You know how he is. Femi did know. Adedayo Williams had built a business empire by being thorough, relentless, and impossible to deceive. It was what made him dangerous. Meet me at my office in 1 hour, Femi said. We need to talk. And Sua, don't panic. Panic makes people sloppy. But as he hung up, Femi's own hands were shaking. Temi couldn't sleep that night. She lay on her thin mat, staring at the ceiling of the abandoned building, her mind spinning with questions. Her mother had known Dayo's mother. That photograph proved it. But how? Why had her mother never mentioned it? And what did Dayo mean when he said his mother might have left something for her? You're thinking too loud, Mama Risi's voice came from the darkness. I can hear your thoughts from here. Sorry, Mama. Don't be sorry. Talk to me. What's troubling you? Temi sat up, pulling her knees to her chest. That man, Dayo. Do you think he's telling the truth? I think he believes what he's saying. Whether it's the truth or not. Mama Risi sighed. Rich people live in a different world from us, Temi. Their truths aren't always our truths. But my mother knew his mother. We saw the photograph. Yes. And that worries me more than anything else. Why? Mama Risi was quiet for a long moment. When she finally spoke, her voice was heavy with old memories. Your mother was a good woman, Temi. The best woman I ever knew. But in her last days, when the malaria was taking her, she said some things that never made sense to me. Temi's heart raced. What things? She said she had made a choice, long ago, that cost her everything. She said she had to give up something precious to protect you. And she made me promise, made me swear on everything holy, that I would make sure you kept that necklace safe. She said one day, it would save your life. Tears pricked Temi's eyes. Why didn't you tell me this before? Because I thought she was delirious from the fever. Because I didn't want to fill your head with false hopes. But now. Mama Risi reached over and squeezed Temi's hand. Now I'm wondering if she knew this day would come. The next morning, Dayo sat in his office reviewing documents Johnson had compiled about Folktale. There wasn't much: a birth certificate from a village in Osun State, employment records showing she had worked as a house help for various families in Lagos, and a death certificate from 8 years ago listing cause of death as severe malaria complicated by typhoid. No marriage certificate. No record of Temilade's father. Nothing to explain the connection to his mother. Sir. Toby knocked and entered. You have a visitor. She doesn't have an appointment, but she's very insistent. She says it's about your mother. Dayo looked up sharply. Who is she? She wouldn't give her name. Just said to tell you she worked in your family home 9 years ago. Dayo's pulse quickened. Send her in. The woman who entered was in her 60s, gray-haired and nervous, clutching a worn handbag like a lifeline. She looked around the expensive office with wide eyes. Good morning, sir, she said in Yoruba. You don't remember me, but I'm Aya Segan. I worked as a cook in your mother's house before she died. Dayo gestured to a chair. Please, sit. How can I help you? Aya Segan sat on the edge of the seat, clearly uncomfortable. Sir, I heard you were asking questions about a necklace. Your mother's necklace. How did you hear that? My nephew works security at your sister's building. He heard her talking on the phone yesterday, very upset about you asking questions. She leaned forward. Sir, I know where that necklace went. I've known for 8 years. And I can't keep quiet anymore. It's been eating at my conscience. Dayo's entire body went still. Tell me. Your mother, God rest her soul, she gave that necklace to a woman named Folktale. I saw it happen with my own eyes. It was about a month before your mother died. Why? Why would she give away her most precious possession? Aya Segan's eyes filled with tears. Because Folktale saved your mother's life, sir. Years before, when your mother was sick with pneumonia, Folktale was working in the hospital. She's the one who noticed your mother's medication was wrong. She's the one who called the doctors back. If not for her, your mother would have died that night. Dayo felt like the ground had shifted beneath him. I never knew that. Your mother didn't want anyone to know. She was a proud woman, sir. But she never forgot what Folktale did. Over the years, she helped Folktale quietly, money for rent, school fees for her daughter. And when your mother knew she was dying, she wanted to do more. What do you mean, more? Aya Segan wrung her hands. Your mother made arrangements, sir. She told me herself. She said she was going to leave something for Folktale and her daughter in her will. Something significant. The necklace was supposed to be proof that she meant it, proof that Folktale's daughter had a right to claim what was owed. Dayo's mind was racing. But there was nothing in the will. I saw it myself. No mention of Folktale or her daughter. I know, sir. And that's why I'm here. The old woman's voice dropped to a whisper. 3 days after your mother's funeral, your sister and Barrister Temi called me into the study. They asked me if I knew anything about a woman named Folktale. I was scared, sir. I didn't know what to say. So I lied. I said I didn't know her. What did they do? Barrister Temi said that if I ever heard anyone mention that name, I should tell him immediately. He gave me money, a lot of money, and told me to forget I ever heard the name Folktale. Then they fired me. Said they were downsizing the staff. Anger rose in Dayo's chest, hot and fierce. They paid you to keep quiet. Yes, sir. And I took the money because I needed it. But it's been eating at me ever since. Especially after I heard that Folktale died. That poor woman died thinking your mother had forgotten her. And her daughter, that girl has been on the streets all these years when your mother wanted better for her. Dayo stood up and walked to the window, looking out at Lagos sprawling below. His sister. His family lawyer. They had betrayed his mother's wishes. They had stolen from a woman who had saved his mother's life. Adedayo, he said quietly. Would you be willing to testify to all of this? Officially? She hesitated. Sir, I'm an old woman. I don't want trouble. I'll protect you. I'll make sure nothing happens to you. But I need your testimony to make this right. After a long moment, she nodded. For your mother's sake. She was a good woman. She deserves to have her wishes honored. Thank you. Dayo turned back to her. Where is Folktale buried? Atten Cemetery, sir. Section C. There's no headstone, just a wooden cross with her name. After Adedayo left, Dayo sat alone in his office, his hands clenched into fists. Everything made sense now. The missing necklace. Sua's panic when he asked about it. Barrister Temi's convenient forgetfulness. They had stolen from Temilade. They had denied her what his mother wanted her to have. And they were going to pay for it. That afternoon, Temi was washing clothes at a public tap when she noticed the car again, a black SUV parked across the street. It had been there yesterday too. And the day before that. She was being followed. Fear coiled in her stomach. She abandoned the clothes and started walking quickly, keeping to crowded areas. The SUV followed at a distance. She pulled out the business card Dayo had given her, her hands shaking. Should she call him? But what if this was his doing? What if he was having her followed? The SUV suddenly accelerated, pulling up beside her. The back window rolled down. Get in, a man's voice said. Not Dayo's voice. Someone older, harder. No, Temi said, backing away. I said get in. We just want to talk about that necklace you're wearing. Temi ran. She bolted into the nearest market, weaving between stalls, her heart hammering. Behind her, she heard car doors slamming, footsteps following. She ducked into a fabric shop, crouching behind rolls of ankara. The shopkeeper looked at her strangely but said nothing. Through the shop entrance, Temi watched 2 men in dark suits search the market, their eyes scanning every face. One of them spoke into a phone. She's here somewhere. Find her. Temi's hands shook as she pulled out her phone, a cheap old Nokia that barely worked. She dialed the number on Dayo's card. He answered on the first ring. Temi? Someone's following me, she whispered, her voice breaking. 2 men in a black SUV. They tried to make me get in the car. They want the necklace. Where are you? His voice was sharp, urgent. Tejuosho Market. I'm hiding in a fabric shop near the main entrance. Stay there. Don't move. I'm sending security. They'll be there in 10 minutes. Stay on the phone with me. Dayo, I'm scared. I know. But I won't let anything happen to you. Do you trust me? Temi looked down at her necklace, then thought of the photograph, of her mother's smile, of all the secrets that had been buried for so long. Yes, she whispered. I trust you. Good. Then stay exactly where you are. Help is coming. Johnson and 3 other security personnel arrived at Tejuosho Market in 8 minutes flat. Temi watched from her hiding spot as they moved through the crowd with practiced efficiency, their eyes scanning, their bodies positioned protectively. The 2 men in suits saw them coming and immediately retreated, disappearing into the maze of market stalls. They knew when they were outmatched. Miss Temilade? Johnson's voice was calm, professional. I'm Johnson, Mr. Williams's head of security. You're safe now. Temi emerged from behind the fabric rolls on shaking legs. The shopkeeper muttered something about drama and turned away. The men who were following you, did you see their faces clearly? Yes. One had a scar here. She touched her left cheek. The other was tall, very dark, with tribal marks. Johnson nodded grimly. We'll review security footage. Come, let's get you somewhere safe. I need to get Mama Risi first. And my things. Already done. Mr. Williams sent another team to bring her and anyone else you care about to a secure location. He thought you might not want to leave them behind. Despite her fear, Temi felt something warm bloom in her chest. Dayo had thought of Mama Risi. He had understood without being told. The SUV Johnson led her to was nothing like the one that had chased her. This one had tinted windows and moved through Lagos traffic with quiet authority. Temi sat in the back, her hands still trembling, trying to process everything. Where are we going? Mr. Williams's personal residence in Lekki. It's the most secure location we have. Full perimeter security, cameras, guards. No one gets in without clearance. Temi had never been to Lekki. She had heard about it, the place where the truly wealthy lived, where houses looked like palaces and every street was clean and paved. It might as well have been another country. Dayo was waiting at the gate when they arrived. The moment the SUV pulled up, he yanked open the door, his face etched with worry. Are you hurt? Did they touch you? I'm fine, Temi said, though her voice shook. They didn't catch me. He helped her out of the car, his hand gentle on her elbow. For a moment, they just stood there, and Temi was struck by how different he looked from the composed billionaire at the charity event. This Dayo looked angry, worried, almost protective. Mama. Temi turned to see Mama Risi being helped out of another vehicle, along with 3 other people from the abandoned building. Temi. Thank God. Mama Risi rushed over and pulled her into a fierce hug. When those security men showed up saying you were in danger, my heart nearly stopped. I'm sorry, Mama. I didn't mean to scare you. Dayo stepped back, giving them space. Please, everyone come inside. You'll be safe here. The mansion was overwhelming. Temi had seen wealthy homes on television, but nothing prepared her for the reality of it. Marble floors so clean she could see her reflection. Chandeliers that sparkled like captured stars. Furniture that looked too expensive to sit on. Mama Risi and the others stood frozen in the grand foyer, equally stunned. Mrs. Adedayo, Dayo addressed Mama Risi respectfully. I've had rooms prepared for all of you. My housekeeper, Mrs. Okonkwo, will show you where everything is. Please, make yourselves comfortable. Stay as long as you need to. Young man, Mama Risi said firmly, finding her voice. What is going on? Why are people trying to hurt Temi? Because of what I found out today. Dayo's jaw tightened. May I speak with both of you privately? There's something you need to know. In Dayo's study, a room lined with books and dominated by a massive desk, he told them everything. About Folashade saving his mother's life. About Ayas Segan's testimony. About his mother's intention to provide for Temi. About Sua and Barrister Femi covering it up. Temi listened in stunned silence, tears streaming down her face. Her mother had saved someone's life. Her mother, who had died in a cramped room in Adedayo without proper medical care, had once been someone's hero. My mother wanted to help you, Dayo said quietly, looking directly at Temi. She wanted to make sure you had a future. Education, opportunities, everything she felt she owed your mother for saving her life. But my sister and my lawyer, they made that disappear. Why? Temi whispered. Why would they do that? Greed. Fear. Maybe they thought if I knew about you, I would give you part of the inheritance. Maybe they just didn't want to share. His hands clenched. Whatever the reason, they betrayed my mother's wishes. And they sent those men after you today. Mama Risi stood up, her face hard. You have proof of this? That they sent those men? Not yet. But I will. Johnson is tracking down the SUV's registration as we speak. And I've already contacted my mother's original lawyer, the one who drafted her will before she got sick. There may be earlier versions, documents that show her true intentions. And what happens to Temi now? Mama Risi asked. She can't hide in this mansion forever. She won't have to hide. I'm going to make this right. I'm going to honor my mother's wishes, and I'm going to make sure everyone who tried to stop me faces consequences. Temi found her voice. I don't want your money. I just want the truth. I want people to know my mother wasn't nobody. She mattered. She saved a life. Dayo looked at her with something like admiration. She did matter. And by the time I'm done, everyone will know it. That night, Temi lay in a bed so soft it felt like sleeping on clouds. The room they'd given her was bigger than the entire abandoned building where she usually slept. It had its own bathroom with hot water, and more towels than one person could ever need. But she couldn't sleep. She got up and walked to the window, looking out at the manicured gardens, the security lights casting everything in a gentle glow. This wasn't her world. Tomorrow, or next week, or whenever this was over, she would have to leave and go back to reality. A knock on the door startled her. Temi? It's Dayo. Can I come in? She opened the door. He stood there in casual clothes, joggers and a t-shirt, looking more human than she'd ever seen him. Couldn't sleep either, he asked. Too quiet. I'm used to hearing people snoring, cars honking, rats in the walls. He smiled slightly. Would you like some tea? Mrs. Okonkwo left some in the kitchen. They sat in the massive kitchen, drinking tea at 3 in the morning, and for the first time since they'd met, Temi felt the walls between them lower a bit. Can I ask you something? She said. Anything. Why are you doing all this? You could have just given me some money and sent me away. Why fight your own family for a stranger? Dayo was quiet for a long moment, staring into his cup. My mother was the best person I knew. When she died, I felt like I lost my compass. Everything I've built, every decision I've made, I've always asked myself, what would Mama do? And if she wanted to help you, if she felt she owed your mother a debt, then honoring that isn't about you being a stranger. It's about being the son she raised me to be. Temi felt tears prick her eyes again. She would be proud of you. I hope so. He looked up at her. Your mother too. She raised you to be honest, to keep your promises even when you had nothing. That necklace, you could have sold it 100 times over the years. You could have eaten for months. But you kept it because she asked you to. It was all I had left of her. No, Dayo said gently. You carry her in everything you do. The necklace is just silver and stone. Your mother's legacy is you, your strength, your integrity, your refusal to give up even when the world gave you every reason to. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, and Temi realized something that both thrilled and terrified her. She was starting to care about this man. Not because of his money or his promises, but because of who he was when no one was watching. The way he had thought to bring Mama Risi to safety. The way he spoke about his mother with such love. The way he looked at her like she was a person who mattered. Dayo? Thank you. For believing me. For believing in my mother. He reached across the table and squeezed her hand briefly. Thank you for trusting me enough to let me help. The next morning, everything exploded. Dayo called an emergency board meeting at Williams Group headquarters. His sister Sua arrived looking nervous, though she tried to hide it behind her usual polished exterior. Dayo, what is this about? I have appointments. Sit down, Sua. Something in his voice made her obey. Also present were Barrister Temi, looking sweaty despite the air conditioning, the company's current legal team, and Aya Segan, who sat quietly in the corner with a notary public beside her. I'm going to make this simple, Dayo said, standing at the head of the conference table. 7 years ago, our mother wanted to provide for a young girl named Temilade, daughter of a woman named Folktale who saved our mother's life. She made arrangements to include this provision in her will. But those arrangements mysteriously disappeared after her death. Sua went pale. Dayo, I don't know what you think. I have a witness who heard our mother discuss these plans. I have a witness who saw you and Barrister Temi actively cover them up. And I have evidence that yesterday, 2 men in a vehicle registered to Barrister Temi's firm attempted to kidnap Temilade. Temi stood up. This is ridiculous. I demand. You demand nothing. Dayo's voice was ice. You're fired, Barrister Temi. Effective immediately. And I'm filing a formal complaint with the Bar Association. You'll be lucky if you ever practice law again. You can't prove any of this. Actually, I can. Dayo nodded to his legal team, who began distributing documents. Aya Segan has given a sworn testimony. I've obtained phone records showing calls between you and the men who chased Temilade. And this morning, my private investigator found the original draft of our mother's will, the one you thought you destroyed. The one that clearly outlines her intentions for Folktale and her daughter. Sua was crying now, mascara running down her face. Dayo, please. How could you? Dayo's voice broke slightly. She was our mother. She trusted us to honor her wishes. And you stole from a child. A child whose mother saved our mother's life. I was scared. Sua sobbed. I thought if you knew, you would give away everything. I thought. You thought of yourself. Only yourself. Dayo turned away from her. You're removed from the board, effective immediately. You'll keep your trust fund because that's legally yours, but you have no say in this company anymore. And you're going to personally apologize to Temilade for what you've done. Dayo, she's our sister, one of the board members said quietly. She betrayed our mother's memory. That matters more. The meeting ended with Barrister Temi being escorted out by security and Sua fleeing in tears. Dayo stood alone in the conference room afterward, feeling hollow. He had won. He had proof. He could give Temi everything his mother had wanted her to have. So why did victory feel so much like loss? 3 months later, Temi stood in front of a mirror she still wasn't used to, adjusting the collar of her new blouse. The face looking back at her was the same, but everything else had changed. She was living in a modest but comfortable apartment in Yaba, nothing extravagant, but it had running water, electricity, and most importantly, it was hers. Dayo had insisted on something closer to the university where she would start classes next month. Business administration. She still couldn't quite believe it. You ready? Mama Risi called from the living room. The older woman had her own room in the apartment, refusing to be separated from Temi even when Dayo offered her a place of her own. Almost, Mama. Today was important. Today, they were unveiling her mother's memorial. Atten Cemetery looked different in the afternoon light. Dayo had arranged for the entire section to be cleaned up, trees planted, pathways repaired. But the focus was on one particular grave that now had a proper headstone, white marble engraved with gold lettering. Folktale Adeyemi 1975 to 2017, she saved a life and changed a destiny, forever remembered, forever honored. Temi stood before it, tears streaming freely down her face. Around her were the other residents from the abandoned building. Dayo had helped all of them find proper housing and employment. They stood quietly, paying respects to a woman most of them had never known. Dayo stood slightly apart, giving Temi space. He had dressed simply today, no expensive suits, just dark trousers and a white shirt. Respectful. Humble. She would have loved this, Mama Risi whispered, her own eyes wet. Your mother always said she wanted to be remembered. Not for being poor, not for dying young, but for the good she did. She's remembered now, Temi said softly. Because of Mrs. Williams. Because of Dayo. A small crowd had gathered, journalists, some curious onlookers, and surprisingly, Adizwa. Dayo's sister looked diminished somehow, her usual confidence replaced with genuine remorse. She approached slowly, stopping a respectful distance from Temi. I don't expect you to forgive me, Sua said quietly. What I did was unforgivable. I let greed and fear turn me into someone my mother would be ashamed of. But I want you to know, I've established a foundation in your mother's name. For other women like her, who do extraordinary things but die in poverty. It won't undo what I did, but maybe it can honor what she was. Temi looked at this woman who had tried to erase her existence, who had stolen her future. Part of her wanted to stay angry. But she thought of her mother, who had always said that holding on to bitterness was like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. Thank you, Temi said simply. For the foundation. My mother would have liked that. Sua nodded, tears falling, and walked away. After the ceremony, Dayo drove Temi to Lekki. Not to his mansion, but to the beach, a private stretch of sand where they could hear the waves and watch the sun begin its descent. They walked in silence for a while, shoes in hand, letting the water lap at their feet. How are you really doing? Dayo asked. And I want the truth, not the polite answer. Temi considered the question. I'm scared, she admitted. Scared that I'll wake up and this will all be a dream. Scared that I'll fail at university. Scared that I don't deserve any of this. You deserve all of it and more. Your mother earned it. She saved my mother's life. But it's not just about debt anymore, is it? Temi stopped walking and looked at him. You could have given me money and walked away months ago. You could have set me up and forgotten about me. But you didn't. Dayo met her eyes. No, I didn't. Why? He was quiet for a long moment, watching the waves. Do you believe in destiny, Temi? That some people come into your life for a reason? I don't know. Maybe. I think my mother knew she was dying. I think she knew that necklace would eventually lead you to me. Not just so I could give you money or education, but because. He turned to face her fully. Because you've changed my life too. You reminded me what integrity looks like. What real strength is. It's not about building billionaire companies or closing deals. It's about keeping promises even when you have nothing. It's about protecting what matters even when the whole world tells you to let go. Temi's heart raced. Dayo. I'm not saying this to pressure you or make you uncomfortable. I know we come from different worlds. I know there's an imbalance between us that might never fully go away. But I need you to know that helping you wasn't charity. It was me becoming the man my mother raised me to be. And somewhere along the way, you became important to me. Not as an obligation or a promise to keep, but as yourself. Temi felt tears on her cheeks again, but these were different. These were tears of something that felt dangerously close to hope. I'm not a charity case, she said firmly. I know. And I won't be treated like one. If this becomes something more, it has to be as equals. I wouldn't want it any other way. She looked at this man who had turned her world upside down, who had fought his own family to honor his mother's wishes, who had seen her at her lowest and never made her feel small. My mother used to tell me that good things come to those who wait and stay faithful, Temi said softly. I never really believed her. Life had been too hard for too long. But maybe she was right. Maybe she knew that one day, this necklace would lead me to someone who would see me, really see me, not as a homeless girl, but as a person worth fighting for. Dayo gently took the necklace between his fingers, the sapphire catching the fading sunlight. This necklace brought us together. But it's not what makes you valuable, Temi. You are valuable because of who you are. Strong, honest, resilient. Everything I should aspire to be. So what happens now? She asked. Now, you go to university. You build your future. You become whoever you want to be. And I. He smiled, I get to watch you do it. If you'll let me. As friends? As friends, he agreed. And maybe, if we're both lucky, as something more. Someday. Temi smiled through her tears. Someday. They stood on the beach as the sun set over Lagos, two people from different worlds brought together by a mother's love and a promise kept. The necklace hung between them, no longer a symbol of loss, but of hope. Of new beginnings. Of destinies fulfilled. 1 year later. Temi stood backstage at the Williams Foundation Gala, smoothing down her dress. She was the keynote speaker tonight, her first time addressing a crowd of Lagos's elite. Dayo appeared beside her, handsome in his tuxedo, and squeezed her hand. Nervous? Terrified? You'll be brilliant. Just speak from your heart. When she walked onto that stage and looked out at hundreds of faces, she touched her necklace, still around her neck after all this time, and thought of both mothers. Folktale, who had saved a life. Nike, who had tried to save a future. My name is Temilade Adeyemi, she began, her voice steady. And this is the story of how a necklace, 2 mothers, and 1 man's integrity changed everything. And that's where we'll end Temi's incredible journey. What did you think of this story? Did it touch your heart? Did the ending surprise you? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, we love hearing from you. If this story moved you, please give it a thumbs up and share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Remember, sometimes the hardest struggles lead to the most beautiful blessings. Don't forget to subscribe to TJ Stories and hit that notification bell so you never miss our daily uploads. We bring you the most dramatic, emotional, and inspiring stories from across Africa and beyond. Tomorrow, we have another incredible story coming your way, you do not want to miss it. Until then, remember, stay strong, stay faithful, and never underestimate the power of keeping your promises. See you in the next story.